Alrighty, and we are recording. So here we are, the fourth part of our analysis of the FIFAe World Cup game between Saudi Arabia and France. So let's kind of go back a little bit here and get our bearings of the position.
If you also want, the FOV by default's 90. I just smash one of the sticks until it goes to 120.
Okay, getting here. Or
In the
oh,
actual
you mean
replay.
this?
Yeah.
There we go.
So if you want it, you can, but that's just what I do.
Okay, sure. Keep it consistent. All right. Let's take a look here. So we'll stop around 334. So right around here is where we stopped. Okay. I'm really liking the possibilities that Falcons have open right now. Like the the amount of defensive positioning they could have at any given moment or offensive positioning, I really do enjoy. I like that both of them can turn inwards like this, or just one of them do that. One of them go around, play here. I would also enjoy that kind of coverage. And with this immediately here, there's a lot of momentum potential, especially with the 50 here that could go in a lot of directions. So I like how they're holding it here and not valuing their momentum too highly. Just quickly get rid of that. And I would actually love to see killers actually just stay here as a static position until the position changes. And if it goes out this way, great. We just come around, we hold coverage, and we can capitalize. We are kind of going to be playing into Vatira's coverage, but either way, that's okay because we have another person back as well. I think Monkey Moon is kind of, I don't know, pretty flat-footed. From their perspective, I would love to see Monkey Moon go up, play BC, and be holding his coverage here with Vatira coming in to make it a bit more youthful because you have one committed man here, or at least very soon to be committed. And the amount of options they have is, right now it's not bad. They still can make a choice to turn up the wall here and make their coverage meaningful as a team. But will they?
I also really like the idea of TRK going OC,
Yeah,
like up the wall.
yeah, I agree. The ability of him able to do whatever, I think, is the main thing in that scenario where he is able to turn back, able to go up for defensive upfield coverage, able to go OC, with killers even the potential of playing reactively off of TRK's calm. Yeah, so we do see that beat there. Now, I really want to watch how they play this interaction because they're all barreling towards the same coverage. I mean, pretty much have it right now. They've got one committed man. Wow, the entire field's coverage is right into that one corner. It's just one big blob of coverage. Well, so here I would love to see killers not get demoed. would be a great thing. So Roas coming in taking this boost I think is not bad. TRK maybe as soon as he lands staying and just holding coverage or even possibly turning off with an offensive turn, I wouldn't mind. But killers, maybe even slowing down here to kind of break check Monkey Moon. As long as Zen doesn't come in for the demo. Staying here, this gives him the opportunity to same thing, come around and go BC if necessary, but also just come straight around here. I would also like to see, if this ends up working out, another possibility of Roas actually not even going for that boost, just coming up and going straight to BC. TRK staying on it and killers holding his coverage as a potential OC. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually really like it. My initial um, like instinct was if there's an outplay touch past Vatira, their coverage sucks for orange.
Yeah.
So I'm almost really curious if Killers is going to try to go for this, and then Rowas tries to go BC because Killers is more mobile here, trying for that outplay touch.
Yeah, exactly. I honestly kind of like either, just depending on how they play it.
I feel like
Now
either
let's
way
see.
though, they're just such defensive
Yeah.
bricks.
Okay. So we see like immediately I'm just looking at these turns from Zen and Monkey Moon. Like as they're coming back, they're like scrambling to get into a position that they think they should have been already, and then both of them make a turn pretty much immediately afterwards. So it's like they're racing to a position that they think they should have been in, and then just racing right back. Like it looks like they're not watching the potential of what could be happening and covering accordingly. Whereas with Falcons, it looks I think quite a bit more like they are doing that. So we see them stay here. And even Rawash just parking there. Like, to be fair, he did see Vatira up. So this does make a lot of sense, but I much prefer this to kind of, making a long pathing all the way around and trying to find value where he can just sit. There is, not use any resources, not, value any momentum, just sit. I think I actually really like that. We see him allowed to go TRK coming into BC. That I assume that was a comm right there. Um, that touch over to TRK. And we have to keep in mind as well, Killer is way off. They have to play this, pretty smart, but it is realistically a 2v2. Vatira is very committed into their net. Ross about to have a recovery onto the wall there too. But I'm very interested to see how Monkey Moon and Zen play this. This is very critical, I would say, because this becomes an attacking play for blue very quickly if they're not properly covering the options.
I'm
Like,
almost curious if Falcons is treating the outplay touch almost like a man up because they're playing very reserved, but in a way that's creating offensive positions and pressure.
yeah, that's true. Hmm. I almost wonder if they're thinking about it similarly to the how I was um speaking a couple days ago about how when every possible thing that could happen is in course of happening. So they're acting as if the best and worst case and every case in between is actively happening, and playing accordingly. And in that scenario, you would find treating the best case, like for example that outplay touch, as something that is in motion of happening. But you can see their positioning just in case it doesn't.
Yeah.
Hmm. Let's see here. Yeah, immediately what did like you could maybe argue Zen had a little bit of pressure by presence here, but he kind of didn't. he he was in and out, and then immediately rotating through. Like,
Yo, what's up?
who do we have?
Coffee.
Sorry, I've been
Hello.
seeing people in the in the audience and
What
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fuck is
oh,
up?
Okay, let's see here.
You talking about daddy?
Wow. Look at this immediate jump from Zen. The downside potential of this is crazy. This is extremely confident. Like, if we look at Orange's position here, they're all hauling ass to get back. And if we look at Falcon's position, even on low boost, the amount of threatening options they have on this net are wild. Just look at even, the options alone where Rawas hits this off the ceiling down to either of them. This becomes an open net, like for free. um, Zen being the kind of person who always gets a touch, I understand the confidence in the jump, but at the same time, this is like scrambling to recover a position that is wild.
I really think this is a very exaggerated point of conventional versus coverage.
I would say so.
Like you
Like,
can
here, let's take a quick map here.
like you can almost see that Zen is trying to go, but Vatira's choosing not to turn in because he's wanting to almost have that structured format.
Yep. I mean, if we just look at like strictly based on committed players, this is getting close to being a 2v0. Like, pretty quick here. Now, assumedly, if Zen gets a touch, okay, this is, somewhat recoverable, but even so, the amount of pressure that Falcons could keep because of this position is, cannot be understated. Okay, so they now, how would I have liked to see these two rotate back? Yeah, kind of just going back as quickly as they can. I mean,
Yeah, I almost want to say Orange's mistake was the push up on their attack.
yeah, I don't hate how they came back. But let's see Vatira's touch here. Gets a save off, stays on it. I don't mind that, but right here I kind of do. I'm not a big fan of this. Um, there's a large benefit in many cases to setting up that needle and having your coverage match temporarily, not when the only thing you're threatening is, something that goes into the other team's coverage though. Like, when you're setting up something that's threatening on their net and you're able to, branch off and make a threatening play, that makes a lot of sense. But like, for example, how I've seen Falcons do it in the past, but here their converging coverage is threatening what, a triple team pinch into their net. Like, or more likely something that goes out middle for like, look at the guy's view. Pretty much anything that happens here, plays into their coverage, and even if it doesn't, we got someone very readily defensive of field coverage. So I'm actually a really big fan of this here. One TRK is pressuring all three of them. Here, stay here. Okay, so we do see, yeah, I like that. Whoa! I think there's one thing that we've seen quite a bit from Falcons actually is the human error of when you are up this much, and you're playing a bit safer, but he is very readily giving up some beautiful coverage. Like, having killers over there and TRK here would have been gorgeous. Like, just think of the amount of options that are possible here. Wow, I do see the benefit of turning in here, playing defensive upfield coverage. I don't mind that in the case that something goes wrong, but yeah, even so, that I don't know if I would recommend going back ever in this scenario, unless like he just has a crazy crystal ball, something wild happens. Yeah, even so, I still would have preferred him here, to cut off this threat. So let's do a quick man count here. So we see pretty much a 2v2 right now. I actually don't dislike orange here. I think the faking momentum or demo threads on killers and TRK from Zen are both very good, and there's an actual good potential for scoring here. I would almost love to see killers try and force it high, or just force it and allow TRK, like for example if he calls forcing high, TRK to go BC just to try and get out of the way of Zen here. Actually, does he even have enough boost to threaten? I'm not sure, but they wouldn't have known that at the time. So whether they calm killers going first or TRK going, I think they have to really recognize the threat of having Zen here as well, because that's a very real threat at this time. He can usually do quite a bit when he's in the play.
I kind of almost want to point out as a note that this is very different than what we've seen from conventional versus conventional, where it's the other team validating the other team's mistakes. When here we're seeing coverage is being punished. It's possible.
Sorry, you kind of cut out.
It's not impossible to be punished,
Oh, yeah.
especially since we didn't see that upfield, defensive upfield turn.
Exactly.
So this might be a thing of even Falcons are trying to get more inside the heads of their opponent. That's extremely metagame though, and I doubt that's a thing.
Yeah. I almost want to say this is a complete result of TRK going all the way back here.
I agree.
Like right here, This position is very much locked down if TRK turns. But as soon as this, there's a wide open hole. And let's just do a quick count of how long TRK's coverage isn't very meaningful. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe you could argue now, like 10, almost 10 seconds of his coverage not being extremely meaningful, which is a long time. Yeah, so we do see killers go first in TRK. So he was going to try and force high, I think, just in case Roas ends up being back as well. Keeps his momentum there. I like that. So I like this in terms of, you know, I'm actually not quite sure. So since TRK jumped, like right here, he could have become, you know, traditional first man. But I really like the recognition from Roas to immediately turn in here because TRK is still covering this. Killers is, you know, maybe he has another touch, but virtually committed very quickly here. There is a big potential for counterplay here if Roas can get to this ball first, which, you know, I don't know if he will, considering it's going in Monkey Moon's direction. But being able to get a 50 or anything going to either direction, I like because of TRK's ability to follow it. Now he will be pressured by Zen or by Vatira, but either way, immediately turning this, you know, very defensive kind of lockdown position into an offensive position would be great. I would love to see that, and I think that's really what Ross is going for here. Now, how do they play their coverage here?
I actually really like that. Not even planning for a 50 and just making him try to throw it away. And it just goes to TRK.
Exactly. And worst case scenario, TRK misses.
Yeah.
Oh, keeps the BC option open. I like that. I kind of want to watch that even one more time. So from right here, spawns in. So I'm just mostly watching killers right now. Actually, I don't know. I think this positioning from Rawas is a... Yeah, I don't really like that throwaway there. I mean, maybe they're just playing for a new position, but I would much prefer a touch over to, you know, he has the angle here. To play it all the way over to TRK and keep that pressure, be able to, you know, try and make something happen when you're down a man, so that when the other one comes back, you can come in and assist in the play. Like if we look at Orange's coverage, they're not threatening anything right now. Zen is mid flip. Neither of them are going to be able to challenge this first. Nobody is getting to this before TRK if it's passed to him. So we see a throwaway possession, then he just goes back. What? Wow. I think this is the least together I've seen their gameplay yet this game.
And they still won, dominating.
Like even with this now, but I'd like to point out as well, I actually like that they got scored on here. They gave away possession, they left to play and left meaningful coverage, didn't have pressure by presence for most of this play. And that's the reason that, you know, they got scored on.
I want to point out as well a lot of what might be obvious to us is because we've done this for a long time. It's like mistakes in ones. The mistakes can be extremely subtle. Like in that example, it was literally just the angle of a touch. That was the mistake.
Yeah, that cascaded into, you know, messing up coverage and everything. But what he's saying is right. Oh, yeah, right here. This touch is the difference between him flipping forwards and flipping to the left. That's it. And this is what led to all of that. Kaboom! Yeah, and even after that touch, actually. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of going back a lot, but even after that touch, what's the next best thing? I would argue it's not this. I think, the reason I'm saying that is because right here, anything that goes back here, Killers is like, he didn't miss position, he's just demoed. He's already going to be able to cover that. I don't think there's a reason to necessarily go back this far, especially when you have someone who's going to be able to pressure quickly. We are committing to the 3v2 if we let TRK go up for this by himself. So either we all stay back or Ruas also comes up to help, but the chances of TRK getting anything meaningful against 3 of them by himself is not that high. So I would honestly love to see Ruas just stay here. I don't think there's much inherent risk.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't mind the fake, but it's just too little too late, I think. Wow. Mirrored. That's like a perfect mirror kickoff. What? Right here, it almost looked like we had an initial and a secondary BC. This looks like it's almost playing for 2 different positions from, like, for example, we have Ross currently BC and TRK readily available to go BC. Just in case, like, if Ross misses or if this, 50s out to Vatira. I actually don't mind that.
Yeah, I actually don't mind that at all. It's like covering where a committed player was. I really like it.
Yeah, and they're playing. This is almost the most proactively I've seen them. Like, less reactive, more proactive, having these 2 players here, even though it came from a position where, they were kind of all going there. I wouldn't say out of necessity, but almost out of necessity. Verwas just committed with his original plan. TRK just going for a touch, and I don't necessarily like hate where Killers is. Also, I just want to point this out. That's what I wanted to point out. That's it. If that was calmed to get Vatira back into the play, congratulations. But that was wild. Yeah, another kind of throwaway here. So, we can pretty readily have coverage over on right side with TRK or Rawas. So throwing this into Zen's coverage, I don't really like.
I wonder if this is the coach like telling them how to adapt. Because their play style has changed throughout the game.
I think that's what I'm kind of seeing. And also for this last, like, what we're almost just over a minute of gameplay, it's felt like they're spending, like, a lot of that has been open space where their coverage hasn't been super, like, I haven't felt the urge to talk about many things. It seems like they're delaying what they're doing a lot. Whereas, like, for example, the first minute and a half, every second there was like almost a new interaction. It was very interesting. But for this last like minute and a half, or last minute, it's felt like, I don't know, they're kind of sitting on their back foot instead of saying, we have the coverage. What are you going to do about it? It's kind of like, here you go. I don't know if you
Yeah,
feel.
it's
I don't know if you
almost
feel similarly,
like
but this feels like more. This feels like it's going like almost like a ones replay.
yeah, I feel like I feel like the coach especially here because I really want to say it's him kind of directing things. I don't think Rwasian Killers would do this on their own, speaking of their ones history.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're kind of treating Orange almost like a tennis racket where they're just thinking, yeah, they'll throw it back. we have no other reason to believe that they won't.
Yeah, which is not what we've seen even earlier in this game.
Yeah, and even Flakes preaches against that, where it's like you're disrespecting them. What if they did this and this and this kind of a
Exactly.
thing?
Yeah, this is the least coverage style I've seen them play yet. It's almost like a morphed coverage conventional that they're playing right now. It's like they've got coverage ideas, but conventional execution.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, even right here, we see Ross going over prioritizing the boost. When I think he could have probably just continued up with TRK and they could have branched off, around here. So like this to me looks like a very conventional way. Whoa, this is the same thing that I was criticizing Zen for doing like a minute ago.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, like
I feel like this
spectator
is
mode.
just powerful for Orange now. It's like it's almost like they just changed colors.
Yeah, I it almost does feel like that actually. Because if we look at Vatira here as well, like, see how this ends up playing out. Zen gets it over, and this is still dangerous. Like, wait, does he? No, he gets a touch. I lied. Um, why did I think? I guess from that angle, I just thought that he got it over him. No, so he does get over. Yeah, but not him. So that's even so though. If this is calmed early from Zen and Vatira is up for this, this becomes very dangerous very quickly. But then again, it is difficult being in the position that Killers is in. But
What is TRK doing?
yeah, he just landed.
Oh, you're right. My bad.
Yeah. It's one of the few times
Oh
I've seen, like, I like Killers just holding his coverage here, actually. Like, if he were to have just stayed here, I don't think this is that bad. And especially after the 50 comes in, it's quite committal, and he's pushing up quite a bit. Yeah, we even see like, this is really dangerous. We even see a backflip to try and get to coverage that he was already covering from Killers, which is not, like, that's a what the monkey moon is what that is. And we don't see anybody playing BC here either.
I almost feel like this is Blue's fingerprint just like changed out for another hand, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And even TRK jumping here, like, this is extremely committal. He is committing to everything high and nothing low, and using a lot of resources to do it as well. I understand that the situation is quite like impending doom, but even so, it almost feels like they're playing very much what's happening now, not what's going to happen, which is very much how we've seen coverage play as well. Or sorry, conventional play, not coverage. Doesn't working out, gets the touch. Would like to see an immediate decision from Killers over Was. Because right now, if something goes bad here with Monkey Moon, potentials for even, um, I guess Fatir is kind of coming straight down. I thought he was going to be landing on the wall. We got to
I really want to.
Sorry.
No, I'm so sorry. You go.
We've got to capitalize on this quite quickly. We are up a lot of men. What were you going to say?
I'm almost like debating, like, because in the series now I watched a majority of the series, so I have like this weird knowledge that They had a 9-minute OT, like game 2.
Hmm.
And I don't know if they're trying to do what Flakes does a lot in his series 1v1s, especially, where we kind of see almost a capsule of that in his series, where he plays really defensively at the start and then slowly, gradually works up into challenging, and the opponent doesn't even recognize it as an option.
Mm-hmm.
I really still think that that's disrespecting, and I don't think it's the correct decision. But if that's the line of process, I think it makes a little bit more sense. But I don't think it's correct still.
I agree. And to me, for this last minute and 20 seconds, this has felt like the least amount of meta we reviewed from Falcons in a while. Like the decision making feels very conventional pilled.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm noticing about it too is like for the earlier parts of the game, like I was saying before, it feels like every interaction becomes extremely interesting, but right now it feels a lot closer to conventional versus conventional than meta versus conventional, and it feels like it's going by like the game just kind of breezes by. Like it's much more of like validating mistakes and that takes time. So when we're watching one interaction where multiple mistakes are being validated, it's very it could take twice, three times as long as if the mistake was cut down early, because if the mistake is being cut down early and not validated, immediately there's another interesting interaction, whereas if it's being validated, they get to start going through with their play, because you validated their mistake, and you're making a mistake you, on your side because of it, if that makes any sense. But it feels like interactions take longer for meaningful things to happen when you're playing conventional versus conventional, whereas in meta it's like, okay, this one little turn is extremely interesting because it's cutting off these options, whereas now it's like they're covering what it looks like they're going to do, which makes sense, but is a lot less what could they do and more this is what they're actively doing.
Yeah, it's almost like the detailed nature of the position is removed, so that everything is now a gray zone and there's a few interactions rather than everything's an interaction.
I think we're seeing that as well in just the time. Like we've been here for half an hour and we reviewed over a minute of gameplay, which is like
Yeah, this is fast.
yeah, like extremely fast. I wonder how much of that is because I'm controlling it. Let's see. And Monkey Moon even opting to go for the boost here. There is a quite dire straits. I would say just rotate back as quickly as you can. Like there is a howitzer pointed at your net right now. And even I don't think it will matter necessarily a lot, but even so, every little bit. Now let's see how Falcons kind of branch off for this attack. Yeah, to me that just seems very like, what happens if this goes wrong? If it goes wrong to the left, maybe TRK has it, but I would love to see Rawas stop a little bit earlier, I think. Or TRK stop earlier, or just someone be covering the potential for this going wrong. Because right now it's like, I don't necessarily like Rawas's coverage all that much. Like immediately
Especially
from
with
like here.
Vatira coming in, he's gonna have a say if this is a soft touch.
Mm-hmm. Like if Killers doesn't demo Zen here, this doesn't become a goal immediately. Like if Zen got a 50 or something that went anywhere except directly to TRK, this now becomes even potentially in their favor with Vatira's momentum coming in there. But say Rawas came around from this side, and it seems like they're valuing the momentum and maybe even the boost a little bit more now. Like that, this is like all of your eggs in one basket right here, because if Zen gets a touch here, it could be argued that it goes out to TRK and is possible, but what happens after that? TRK has to pull something out of his hat because otherwise, if Rawaz is going to have a say without it being directly above his head, he might have to, do a rotation around. There's a potential to threaten on Vatira, which I wouldn't mind, but if your whole point for coming up this close was to threaten Vatira, I don't see that as valuable as covering the potential options of the entire right side of the field and keeping options open to cut off Vatira or go after Monkey Moon. That it just felt that play, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it felt quite lazy, which is crazy to say about a game of this caliber. But that
Yeah,
last rotation.
I was about to say the same. Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we see another direct mirror. We do not. I mean, we kind of do. I got really excited. I thought that it wasn't, but no, it's not a mirror. It's just a traditional convention or traditional meta kickoff. Let's quickly check out how they use their coverage right after the goal. So, or sorry, the kickoff. So immediately we see Zen being quite a bit further up, able to follow this a lot quicker. In this position, I would have loved to see a bit of a meta adjustment, where, Rawas comes along here. If they can calm that they the other team is going for the kickoff that they are, I would almost like to see it in an option to play a little bit more off of that. Like it feels like they had a kickoff strategy and ended up going for it, but I would love to see some like reactive kickoff strategies where you calm what the other team is going for and play accordingly. Like for example here, this is very nitpicky and you're supposed to know this during the time, but if killers were to branch off a lot more quickly here and go over for this boost, even if the ball goes over to the left, I still don't mind the coverage there. TRK can keep his coverage there on this side of the field. Watching Verwas, I would almost like to see kind of come back this way instead, covering the defensive options just in case. And something like that could look like. Why is it continuously putting me up? Stop that. Like Verwas coming through here, killers branching off there, and TRK being right here.
I almost want to say what you're recommending is a very modified version of the first kickoff, where we saw everyone active, and now we're seeing killers almost needing to make that decision up against that brick wall, like conventional shoots.
Well, if we see, for example, Vatira dropping back on this side, it's realistic to think that they're going to try and force it to this side.
Yeah.
Assuming they're thinking about, what happens next. Based off that information, it's almost in how I'm kind of thinking about it, worth it to just cut off this angle first.
Oh.
Like, from killers coming in here, whether he threatens the boost or just threatens the ball immediately. And that's why I was thinking Ruas immediately with a defensive turn, which it slows down a little bit. Let's say he has to come up here, it slows it down a little bit, but I believe there's time for it to be slowed down a little bit because of TRK's inherent coverage right after the kickoff. He's able to threaten a little bit. Like, it's not a lot, but he's able to have a little bit of a threat. Let's say it goes off to this side. I think the advantage of having killers go this way, if the 50 ends up going to our right, is larger than the advantage of having Rawas here if the 50 ends up going to the left. With the idea of, let's say something goes wrong, what are we more ready for? Like in this situation where the ball ends up going this way into killer's coverage, and having Rawas turn back this way, we're ready for a lot. Let's say, for example, in the opposite side of the spectrum, the ball ends up going out here, we're ready for a lot less. If the ball gets, hit really hard, there is still a large portion of this field like all the way back here, that we're not really covering. To be fair, we might be able to make it there first, but even so, it's racing to find that value in the position with your coverage. We see another really, really, really far rotation as well. I almost want to argue that this could be extremely threatening. Imagine TRK was like here, able to come in and help from pretty much any angle. I don't know. Either way, I just would have preferred having him in the play a bit more there. See another one in the span of like 10 seconds. We see another one where Rawas goes all the way back to a boost pad that was just grabbed. So now we have 2 players all the way in our back end. It doesn't feel like we're trying to hold pressure by presence at all. It's like we're trying to play for, are we assuming that each position is a losing position and trying to play for a new one? Even there, I wouldn't recommend going back to the big boost. What do you think? I think it's quite.
I think this is very similar to a mental trap that you can get when you're playing people that are higher level in chess. Like for example, when you're in a dominant position versus somebody who's has an arbitrarily higher elo than you, the thought process doesn't become I need to win. It's I need to not lose.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very apparent here.
That effect that I was talking about before, it seems like it's almost even compounding now. Like the interactions seem extremely drawn out. Because like for example, this rotation where Ross is going all the way back, that's like a 5 to 10 second rotation. So this whole interaction stemming from Rawas being super valuable in the play, and imagine him playing pressure by presence here, just staying close. TRK's parking right where he is, allowing killers to come back into the play once he's back, is so much more suppressive. Whereas right here, we just immediately leave, and that I think that just draws out the interactions so much. We do see TRK coming in, but his whole plan here is to hit this. He commits so early.
Yeah, it goes against all one's theory.
Like this, I'm baffled by this jump, because in what world do you hit this ever? Like even if it is a good jump, when does the plan actually work? Even if it's the wrong one. And now, inherent man advantage for orange. And now we see, Ruas kind of parking it here, which I do like, finding value in coverage where you are. But even so, this is like we're choosing the second or third best option from the get-go. Yeah, this whole rotation seems clunky to me.
This is going to be a wild analogy, I'm going to say, but this reminds me of almost chess cheaters and how they feel like they need to get that advantage, but later down the road, they're like, oh no, I might be caught. And now they're choosing like the third or fourth stockfish option. But we don't need to do that.
You can choose different stockfish options?
No, like strength wise.
Like, can you see what those moves are with stockfish?
Yeah, you can see what move it recommends per strength. Yeah.
Then yeah, I think that's a really good analogy. They are stockfishing this game. They are cheating. And now I actually like that though. But it's interesting because, they're at this point I would almost call them in this game like a Hikaru. Like I don't think they've had enough sustained success yet to be a Magnus. But imagine Hikaru choosing choosing the third or fourth best option. Like you would expect Hikaru or Magnus to choose the best option, and they're not going to be accused of cheating because it's Hikaru and Magnus. Yeah, it almost feels like they're playing with like brain fog. This feels like the way that I play when I feel foggy. Yeah, but this whole rotation here, it seems delayed and clunky. Like everybody is choosing to pause to hold coverage in in a meaningful way in which it might not be the most meaningful. Whoa. Defensive turn there. I feel like that just slows down the rotation a lot more. Like I understand the point of it, but this is a conventional first, second, third man right here. I think the meta turn would have been to go offensive.
Yeah, especially with Vatira backing up and keeping his coverage behind him for this.
That is wild to me. It seems like every interaction.
I'm curious what a sports like mental person would have a comment on this and be like, this is common or this is uncommon. I'm very curious about their opinion.
Okay, I like that. I like what TRK and Killers just did. I don't really like the wave dash. Then I probably would have preferred to turn to the right from Killers, but I like how they stayed. Killers is just loving these wave dashes. I don't think they're giving him anything. What? Playing it off to Ross. And okay, that could just be a mechanical thing.
Whoa.
That yeah. Go Killers, I guess. I don't dislike I don't necessarily I think the TRK might be a little high up or a little far up. But I don't yeah, that was way too far up. If this went wrong, like I would have preferred him just park here. He's not really being threatened by anyone either. This is very, very good coverage. But then immediately we're just reducing what we can do. This is very similar to that Ruas thing. Like this is almost the same goal. Except the difference is now it's a 2v3. We are the 2 versus a 3v1. We are the 3. That's wild.
I almost find it just as fascinating that conventional is struggling to readapt to coverage's adaptation.
Well, and it's like that adaptation is more towards conventional. So you'd think that in conventional play, Monkey Moon, Vatira, and Zen would be the better team, right? But I wonder if it's a mental thing, where right now it's almost conventional versus conventional right now, and they're still losing. Exact same kickoff. See what they're trying to do here. Yeah, both of them trying to put it to their side. Ends up going over to Rawas. Okay, I'm going to watch this from the other side here. I understand the reason for the defensive turn from Rawas, but at the same time, I would love to see TRK hit it and turn back, and Rawas continue up.
I almost want to say this validates what we say as coaches as, hey, don't turn into where you think somebody's going to get possession, because their kickoff plan was Rawas having possession.
Mm-hmm.
And Killers turned into that as well. And the touch that Rawas could have had that Killers took, Killers could have had a very, very huge advantage by playing where TRK is currently now, but TRK could have been upfield and demoing, for example.
Exactly. I think as immediately after this touch from TRK, there was an opportunity to do a few things. Playing it safe, I would not mind him turning back. Playing aggressive, I would not mind him going up and continuing to um, play, pressure by presence or threatening something. At the same time, because of Killer's positioning, I do like the turning back a little bit more. But then at the same time, for that to work, Rawas would have had to come up like this, which I don't hate. The passing option here cannot be, denied. Like Killer's, there's a thread the needle opportunity there, which I don't know. Like it's almost an option for a team initiator. Whereas right now it's like if Killers gets a touch here, maybe at 50s, maybe TRK can turn and get it there, but yeah, it's like and it looks like Rawas was immediately thinking the worst. Like he's all the way back. Hmm.
I'm really curious to see how Carmine Court plays now that we're almost seeing I wouldn't classify this necessarily as gameplay errors, but outside factors like the human error and the mental aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Carmine Court has a more tighter grip on it.
I wonder. That'd be interesting to see. I mean, at that rate, we'll be reviewing one of their games in the next 2 seconds. So hey, this is like this is the first time that we've reviewed in this level of a lobby 2 minutes in this amount of time.
Yeah.
And to me, this doesn't feel like I don't feel like I'm skipping over a crazy bunch of stuff either.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
yeah. Please tell me if I'm wrong though, because I could be. But
No, I actually really do it. It's I think it's like said before where it's not everything is being perceived as an interaction where like for example that defensive turn by Rawas, the interaction will happen later.
mhm,
So it's this really weird thing of I really want to say that I need to not lose mentality compared to the I need to try to play like a world-class player.
mhm. And I'm just thinking about what we would have had to talk about if Ross turned up here as well, because then we're talking about so many options. Whereas right now, it's very clear what he wants to do. This is the net. This is a no ball zone. That is our plan. Whereas imagine we have a turn up from Ross. Right. Right. Here. Imagine, if you will. Hit. Turn. Also, it continues. Let me just reposition. Thank you. Once again, hit. Turn. Ooh. Now, now we're talking. Here, now we give an entirely new threat to this position. Killers can go for a solo play, can go for a cool Zen solo play where he goes off the ceiling. He can pass. Right now, if Ruas turns back, he can shoot the ball. He can go for a 50. They are up a man. This is the time to press that advantage.
This is going to sound really weird, but I feel like the longer this game goes on, the more and more stale blue is becoming.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. Is it this last minute of gameplay felt like it went by instantly. I do not remember much of reviewing this last minute of gameplay. And I think that's just because like every interaction is taking like quite literally maybe 10 times longer.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and it's interesting to me why we're not seeing turns like this from Ross. Because earlier in the game, we were like a lot. Maybe it's just their, you know, the mental aspect of let's not choke this. But even so, you playing in this manner got you up by 4 goals against Monkey Moon, Zen, and Vatira. That is a winning strategy. Continue. It's like they're immediately deciding that they're going to be playing on their back foot. Which this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Is what it's looking to me. They're manifesting defense. They're saying, I'm going to go defensively, and in so doing, they are now down a man. And yes, they're going to become defensive. Congratulations, I am now a soothsayer. Give me some cards, some tarot cards, and I will tell your fortune. I am going to position you in the middle of a highway. You're going to get hit. Like, that's what this feels like. Is it we are going to go back to in anticipation of of something defensive. In so doing, we are reducing our offensive play to the point that we are quite literally forcing our own defensive position. Like, not only in the fact that we are positioning defensively, but that now we have to position defensively. Whoa! What? Why? Right here. Which one of you did it? Was it you? Was it you? Who didn't calm this? You look guilty. You look guilty to me, Ross. All right.
I also want to note, though, this isn't an exclusive thing against a team that was viewed as almost the best in the world. They're doing this against, for example, like Chile, or what games we saw before this that had Falcons in them. This isn't a thing just because they're playing other world-class players. This is something that can be fixed and work forever.
This is cinema. This is better. This is better than Hollywood could have scripted it. Like, okay. So now, that aside, do we play for the next best thing? The mistake has been made. Okay. Ross goes down, puts his coverage. I don't mind that. I like how TRK stayed. I don't like how far Killer's pushed up here.
I also want to point out we have reached an hour if you...
Okay, sounds good. I'll just do this one less interaction then. So right here, actually even a little bit before, I would love to see us positioning like here. This is very safe from Killers. Positioning up all the way over here is like, well, yes, but also no. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching.
What a game.